Kwai. Mga lumek box. Sunghom. Punky Scott. Rainy day. Friends. So, having a discussion with my wife about quantum physics double slit experiment, and I was trying to explain to her how feathers and double slit, and you could do the double slit experiment with feathers, and then she was saying she did not understand the double slit experiment at all. Does not understand it, and only recently started to understand it. I thought everyone knew about the double slit and photons or electrons and how that works with the whole superposition in quantum physics and what happens when you look at them and they turn back into particles. So, or you observe it or measure it, interfere with it. So she said no, and we watched a bunch of videos. Over time she was like, oh yeah, but I know because of you. So I assume you know a little bit about double slit experiment. And if you don't, you should go to YouTube and find a cute video that explains the double slit experiment, and you'll understand it. So, feathers. And I noticed this when I was a child, and I didn't call it double slit experiment. Feathers, I don't know if you know this, are studied, you can Google this, they're nanostructured optical waveguides. Feathers, that's why they don't bleed over time. They get their colors and everything from the nanostructure. And there's a lot of things that go on with how feathers work and what they do with light and polarization and all kinds of things. But we're going to stick to double slit experiment. Like in the double slit experiment, you could shine a laser. I have drawn right here in blue, and I have the sun in red. You could shine a laser through a feather, and those slits are smaller than what they use in many double slit experiments. They're very fine. You force it into, now of course you're not shooting one photon or one electron at a time. You're shooting many. It's a shotgun, not a fine scientific instrument. Like the sun, there's a fire hose of just particles, energy, electromagnetic spectrum just shoot coming out of it, and it takes about 1,000 years for a photon to exit the sun. 1,000 years because of the density of the sun. So the photons leaving the sun take 8 minutes to reach you and hit you and through the heart. But they were made about 1,000 years ago. So 600 years before anyone but Native Americans lived in America. And they were out there drumming and singing under this quantum machine up here. And so you can take a feather and the slits in the feather and put a light through it, and you will get the double effect. And of course, you're observing it, so all you're going to see is particles. You're going to see an image pattern of dots. You'll see it. You can see it. I tried to figure it out as a kid. I was like, why is this? And it works with starlight. It works with lasers. It works with candle lights. I like to do it with deer candles and deer lamps or animal tallow lamps. But the sun is the best and the most powerful. So what happens, the light, photons, and all the energy goes through the slits of a feather and is forced into a superposition state. Now, an observer collapses those waveforms is what they expect. But what people aren't really talking about is how the observer has so much effect on that collapse, besides everything being connected as one. The energy of the heart field is the strongest energy field emanating from the body. And anything that interacts with that collapses. So I assume, what energy is coming out of the heart, and what it is looking for, and what the heart wants. And those waves coming from the sun through your optical waveguide that forces things into a quantum state of superposition collapse to the heart's desire, which is why you need to keep your heart in a good state and focused on good things. So when you're in the sun, the light coming through is going into superposition, and all the energy, now not all of it because there's a bunch of mess, it's tangled and Things are bumping off each other and collapsing on their own. It is not clean and sterile environment, but there's a lot coming out. And a majority, no, I don't even know if it's a majority, but a vast amount go into superposition. And a vast amount of those are collapsed by the function of your heart wave. And the stronger you keep your love, your heart, your strength up, the more waves you can collapse. And so the more you sit in the sun, like our ancestors did, with feathers in your vision, and the light coming through the feathers and through you, and it makes a halo around you. And it polarizes the light. It makes everything look crisp, clean. If you haven't had feathers over your head, and if you wonder why when you go to celebrations and everyone's wearing feathers and it's joy because it's a celebration, but the feathers change your vision. They change the interacting environment around you, and they cause what's going on in your heart to collapse the wave function. So if you use feathers to meditate and give thanks and praise out in the sunlight, you will be collapsing a bunch of solar generated by your ancestors 1,000 years ago energy. Not all of it was generated that long ago, but photons were. And you will be collapsing them into your heart's desire, which should be focused on your ancestors. And that is why the ancestors have a certain type of behavior and a certain way of singing in the songs that matter and count, because they collapse the waveforms into a standing wave that is a predictable, sustainable algorithm of energy that you can sustain over a great deal of time. Whereas if you don't keep your heart in the right position and collapsing these waveforms in the sun in prayer, then you create a waveform or a structure in space, just like you would see smoke curling, or the waves off of a paddle in a canoe, that are not congruent and don't continue. It would be like bad currents, and they just collapse. That's why our traditions and our songs and our ways cause things in the universe to collapse and create a sustaining, living, ongoing pattern of behavior and a pattern of existence and creation, where unknown patterns and untested ones will collapse and break down off in the distance and will not continue on. Or we have one that, if we act and do as we know in the lands we know, will be a sustained wave. A sustained way of being that sustains all life. And there you go.